All right, you got it? Yes. Thanks, Henry. Okay, awesome. So we're going to be talking about LinkedIn ads, my favorite topic in the whole wide world. I run an ad agency called B2 Linked, and we're an agency that only does LinkedIn ads. So very much proud one-trick ponies, and we go super deep on this stuff. I live in Utah in the United States with my wife and 4 kids, and started out doing SEO a long time ago and kind of stumbled into LinkedIn ads. They ended up being a really strong channel for a previous company. Grew that account to become LinkedIn's largest spending account for about 2.5 years before starting B2 Linked. So that's where we're coming from. The reasons you might look into running LinkedIn ads might be you're already running Google, but your sales team is reporting having poor lead quality. They're talking to moms and pops, tire kickers, and because search, someone is signaling their intent, but they're not able to signal their ability to purchase your product, especially those with higher lifetime values, then LinkedIn ads might be a really good channel for you. The other one is if you're running Facebook and you're either hearing about poor lead quality because we can't target very well by, only very few people put in their job title. Facebook's reach over like company sizes is really poor and inaccurate. Or they're not signaling their intent, so they come across as being low quality to a sales team. Maybe you've already used the retargeting as much as you can, your lookalike audiences, your custom upload audiences, and then if you try to turn it up higher than that, you end up getting a lot of really low quality leads. LinkedIn ads could be a really solid channel for you. And there are some great things about LinkedIn. Number one is the targeting that is at scale. We'll go over this in more detail, but we can target by all kinds of things: their job title, seniority, company size, company industry, even by company name. So there's a lot here. And especially in first world countries, the vast majority of white collar professionals are on there. So you get pretty near infinite scale, which is awesome. We also know that people tend to keep their LinkedIn profiles up to date, which is awesome. It means we're not going to be showing ads to people who had that job title, 6 months ago or 2 positions ago. When people are on LinkedIn, they're thinking about their job or their career. So it puts them in the perfect mindset to absorb an offer that you're giving them that helps them with their work life. And then finally, every time we measure LinkedIn ads against the other channels, it always is responsible for closing the largest deal sizes on average. And Google is always responsible for closing deals the fastest because of them signaling intent. So it's helpful, especially if you're going after those major deals. And the one big challenge that everyone knows about LinkedIn ads is they are expensive. They are unapologetically expensive. And because of that high cost per click, $8 to $11 on average if you're targeting here in North America, a little bit less in the UK, but not much. We know that you probably have to have a larger deal size to make it worthwhile. So if you're doing business to business lead gen and you have a lifetime value or a deal size of over about 15,000, maybe even down to 10,000, then LinkedIn ads pretty much become a no-brainer. We also know that white collar recruiting works really well on LinkedIn. Trying to hire a new sales manager or a marketing manager, you can target people who already have those titles in your local area, and it tends to be a lot more effective for qualified applicants than even having a recruiter reach out. And then also higher education like MBA programs tend to work quite well as well. I love this acronym AMMO. And it's like, bring your ammo to social advertising. And this works on any social channel, but especially appropriate for LinkedIn. It stands for your audience, your message, and your offer. Now, I realize that AMMO, the real acronym, has 2 M's, but we'll make this work. So your audience is who it is you're targeting. And that's why we come to LinkedIn. That's why we pay LinkedIn prices, is access to this amazing audience. Your message is what your prospect sees. So which ad format, which imagery, which ad copy. And then your offer is by far the most important part. And that's essentially your call to action, what you're offering them in order to get them to convert. So we'll start here on message so we can talk about different ad formats. And sponsored content is your news feed. It's the Your newsfeed is the main experience, the home page, whether you log into LinkedIn on your mobile device, in the app, or on desktop. And you're going to have click-through rates that are a little bit less than 0.5%. So you can expect that. And you'll probably pay $8 to $11 on average per click. With smart bidding strategies like we suggest, significantly you'll pay less, but that's about what we expect for most people. And especially single image sponsored content is what I recommend everyone start out with, because it's just such a versatile ad format. You can stick any kind of offer really inside of this one, and it's super easy. Then you have text ads, and I recommend this to about 15% of advertisers. The last one was 95%. Text ads, the reason why I don't recommend them to everyone, despite being LinkedIn's cheapest ad format, these are incredibly efficient, is if you look at that second bullet there, a 0.025% click-through rate is basically average. And it's kind of hard to outperform that. The reason, and to put that into perspective, that's 2.5 clicks out of every 10,000 times these ads are shown to people. So really insanely low engagement rates. But despite that, it's a ton of free impressions. People, they're over in the right rail only on desktop. They're obviously ads, but you'll show these to a whole bunch of people. Many won't notice, but quite a few will. And if you're running these alongside your sponsored content, they'll help improve your not conversion rates. They may affect conversion rates too, but they'll increase your click-through rates by usually about 15%. So they can be really good. And especially if you have a poor landing page experience for mobile devices, one thing that's really cool about these is it's desktop traffic only. So you can really control for that. Then we have an ad category called sponsored messaging. Now, opposed to the other ad formats on LinkedIn where you'll pay only when someone clicks, with sponsored messaging, and they come in 2 different flavors, you'll pay per person that you send them to, with no guarantee who's going to see it or open it or click on your offer. So it puts several layers in between you and the action that you've been getting from the other ad formats. And they can be, because of that, on average, they can be incredibly expensive. So it doesn't seem too bad. You'll pay, 35 to 65 cents to send it to someone, but on average, 50% will open them. And then only about 4% of those will end up clicking on your call to action inside there. And so you end up with like a $23 to a $58 cost per click on average. So this is why I only recommend these to about 5% of advertisers, because it takes a very special kind of offer to make these work. If you're offering something like, because of who you are in the industry, we want to give you early access or a sneak peek at something, that feels very VIP. It feels very email worthy. We're interested in you for a position. That's pretty worthy. We'd like to invite you as a VIP to this event we're putting on. That's pretty worthy as well. So these are the types of offers you want to think, like if a cold audience, if you were to receive this cold without warning, would you be excited about it or would you mark it as spam? If it's something you'd be excited about, then yes, sponsored messaging is the best way to deliver it. If not, I would probably just use sponsored content. Now, the message ads version of this, it's like an email. It drops into your messaging box, your inbox, and the next version is called conversation ads. And this one is like a chatbot experience where you'll give a choose your own adventure feel. You'll ask someone questions. Something we've found work especially well here is like, hey, are you going to be attending this event? And if they say yes, you can say, come check out our booth. We've got something for you. Or if they say no, you say, well, hey, do you want to join this webinar that we're putting on next week on a similar topic, so you can kind of learn what people at the conference might be learning. What we've found is because you're giving essentially more shots on goal with conversation ads, you're giving someone more chances of liking what you're offering. We see these to be about 30% more efficient. So a 30% lower cost per conversion usually is how that comes out. They are pretty cumbersome to build. You have to build all of that logic flow, but hey, for 30% efficiency, it's probably worth 30 minutes to build this versus 5 minutes to build the sponsored messaging. Then also over in the right rail, this takes the same inventory as text ads, are called dynamic ads. And dynamic ads, they're interesting because they stick your picture in there as a prospect. And so they're a little bit more attention grabbing, and they are slightly less expensive than sponsored content. So if you like text ads for the fact that they get a lot of desktop traffic, but you want to pay a little bit less than sponsored content, these are probably a great one for you. Then you have lead gen form ads, which if you've used Facebook's lead ads are pretty much the same thing. You can choose to not send someone to your website or a landing page, but instead you can have a drawer slide down from your ad where when someone interacts with it, a form is right there. They can fill out the fields. And in fact, LinkedIn's going to try to make it as easy as possible for people by auto-filling those fields. And so all the user, especially on mobile where they don't want to type with their thumbs, it can be really nice to just hit that submit button. So because of that, you'll see conversion rates that are 10 to 50% higher on average. It doesn't require the user to do as much. So you've probably seen the same thing on Facebook, where sometimes these come across to the sales team as being lower quality leads. Sometimes the people may say, hey, I don't remember filling out a form, or I don't remember contacting you, just because they made it so easy. So if your goal is to have a really positive interaction with very high value types of prospects, then I would probably still send them to a landing page. But if your goal is to get the lowest cost per one of your ideal target members into your database for nurture, then lead gen form ads are amazing. If you're using Eloqua, Marketo, Salesforce, HubSpot, and a few others, these will natively integrate right in. But if you're not, the $20 a month Zapier plan will pipe these leads to basically anywhere that you want. Then you've got video ads, which just a couple weeks ago, LinkedIn released retargeting for video ads, which is something we've been waiting for a long time. Same rules as all social video. They autoplay, but they play muted. So subtitles and action right at the very beginning is going to be the strongest way to get people to pay attention and watch for the rest of your video. And you can now set up the retargeting. Like if you've watched 50% of my video, now I want to show you the next one in the sequence. So then we have carousel ads. I'm not going to talk about these because I don't see a whole lot of value. They're a direct port from Facebook. They're more work to build, and you don't get a cost advantage or necessarily a click-through rate advantage. It's just the ability to stick more than one picture into into an ad. So I would probably avoid unless you have a real need for that. Okay, so now the exciting part, the targeting. So job title, the department someone works in, their seniority, skills on their profile. If they've gone and joined a group, you can target all of the members of groups by name, which is super cool. Account-based marketing, where you can target by company name or exclude by company name, by the way. Targeting company name, company size, company industry. The education fields are interesting, especially if you're in higher education. The normal demographics you'd expect, like age, gender, location. But then almost all of these can be combined together to make ultra tight audiences. Like you have to have this job title in this size of company, in this industry, in this location. And then you can use exclusions for things like, hey, here's a list of all of my competitors. I want to exclude them from being able to see and click on my ads, so I'm not spending money on competitors. One targeting approach we really like is we may find that the same type of persona fits into multiple targeting. So maybe we can reach them by their job title, their job function, which is their department with seniority, skills with seniority, and groups with seniority. And we find that each one of those targeting types is going to reach the prospect a slightly different way. Some will cost more, some will cost less, some will be higher quality, some lower, some higher volume, some not. And so you can, if you build these out all side by side, you can compare and eventually find the best type of targeting to reach your audience with your budget and and your ideals. And I guarantee your competitors are likely not willing to go through this level of effort, and any cost advantage you can find on LinkedIn, the better. Okay, so now we get to talk about offers, which I told you is by far the most important part of LinkedIn ads. All of the types of offers we're talking about here, I've ordered by very low friction types of offers, which means they're not asking very much of the user. And so more people are going to be willing to do that, especially cold traffic. And then at the bottom, you have offers that it's going to be harder to ask someone to do, especially cold traffic to do. More's being required of them, and they'll put up more friction and more walls. And what we find is high friction and low friction doesn't work very well on LinkedIn. If you do low friction, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to pay $8 to $11 per click to send someone to a blog post. Well, blog posts don't have strong conversion rates. And so you'll end up with like a £500 cost per conversion, which isn't amazing. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you tell cold traffic, hey, buy something now, talk to our sales rep, try a trial of something, hop on the phone for a demo. Those things are traditionally, you're asking too much too soon. It's kind of like proposing to someone on the first date. You may be a wonderful person to marry, but it's just not the right time. So what we find being the very best type of offer to give people on LinkedIn, the things that convert are gated content offers, lead magnets, where you're saying you have something that keeps you up at night. You've got challenges, you have curiosities. We're going to help solve that with an educational piece of content. Here's a free checklist or a cheat sheet, a guide, an ebook, a free in-person event when those things become a thing again. All of those types of things where you're offering considerable value in exchange for their email address are a great way to start. Realize that LinkedIn does have retargeting, but it's pretty weak. If you use the lead gen forms or video, we now have retargeting on site. So you don't have to worry about getting them to your website to retarget. But other than that, LinkedIn's got this really weak retargeting. It's still kind of expensive. It still relies on cookies. So only about half of your visitors will even fit into your retargeting pool. So what I recommend is use LinkedIn to drive the right traffic to your website, and then use your Facebook and your Google retargeting, which are everywhere. I mean, you can reach them no matter where they are on the internet pretty much at a small fraction of the cost and very effectively. So I'm a huge fan of leveraging the retargeting from other channels for this. I get asked a lot about how to create ads because I told you the average the average sponsored content has a 0.4% click-through rate. The majority of the ads that we launch as an agency land between 0.8 and 1.2%. So I'm going to show you the same strategy we use to double or triple the efficiency of these ads on average. Realize that when people are on LinkedIn, they are in a hurry. And so you need to keep things short and to the point. It's not like Facebook where you can tell a whole story and wax poetic. On this one, you want to get right to the value. WIIFM, I call it everyone's favorite radio station. It stands for what's in it for me. So as you're writing your ad, you try to front load it with, hey, here's a problem, here's a concern you have, here's a solution, just so you can perk their interest because they're going to be moving fast. And put a strong call to action. Don't worry about putting something like trying to be wishy-washy in the ad, just get right to the point there. And then your imagery, we don't have a 20% rule like we have on Facebook where you can't put too much text in an image. But even still, really the job of your image is not to convince someone or get them to convert. The job of the image is just to be a thumb stopper. Just get them to stop scrolling. And so you want this to be bright. You want it to be contrasting. So LinkedIn is very blues, grays, and whites. You want your imagery to be heavily saturated in oranges, greens, reds. Those are great colors there. So here's an example. We like to keep our intro text, which is the text above the image, to about less than 130 characters. The example you see here on screen breaks that a little bit. But anyway, this one performed really well, so I wanted to show you anyway. You want to get right up front, here's why you should pay attention. And then number two, tell them the strong call to action. So in this one, we analyzed over 18 million emails and found the best practices we wanted to share with you. So that's why you should pay attention. And then click to download the new infographic is the call to action there. And then your headline is this text that comes below the image. We like to put in square brackets and tell them what to expect. So in this case, free download, free infographic, something like that. And then the title of the asset, this is a good place to use it here. You can tell the image, nothing special. This was taken by the coworker with their phone in their office. Again, back when that was a thing, but this performed extremely well. Anyone who is looking to advertise on LinkedIn, if you aren't already, we have this free checklist on our site. It's the 8 things that you need in order to start advertising. And, taking on any channel, learning any learning curve is a challenge. So this is the same checklist that we give to our clients when we onboard them, and we wanted to share it with you too. So if you go to b2linked.com/checklist, you can grab that there. And if you really like LinkedIn ads, I launched a podcast. We're on episode 22 right now, and it's all about LinkedIn ads. We go super deep. It's training level stuff. It's what I used to train my employees with. So if that's of interest, definitely subscribe. We've got interviews with the product engineers at LinkedIn, as well as me just kind of training like this, but in a little bit more depth. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and move to the Q&A here. I'd love to answer any questions you have about LinkedIn ads. And hopefully I moved fast enough so we actually have time.
That's fantastic, AJ. I've got a couple to ask, and hopefully some people will throw some in the chat soon. With message ads, are there any really good use cases you've seen which are beyond just, say, simple recruitment? Is there a common sort of special offer that always works with those?
Yeah, and it does take a special offer. It's kind of hard to engineer to take something that you're already doing and kind of push it into a message ads kind of category, because you don't want this to come across like spam email, because people will just ignore it, and you already paid to give it to someone. So with that being said, some of the most outside of recruitment, some of the best use cases we've seen here are like we had a client who was releasing something first to influencers before they released it to the general public. And it was this, here's early access and a sneak peek at something before anyone else gets to see it. We figured because you are who you are, because you're an influencer, you might want it first. And that was extremely successful. We also found if you can invite like VIPs to an event. So if you're targeting, let's say, VPs and above at large companies, and you put on like a special dinner or a networking group with drinks and getting to network with their peers, inviting them through these can be a very good way to do it.
Fantastic. So it's that sort of special offer, special audience, very select kind of thing. With conversation ads, is there a range of cost per click with that one, or is it just very, very varied with those?
It totally depends on how good your subject line is, because that can range anywhere from we've seen 50% open rates on average up to, I think we've seen a 76% open rate. And then we've seen click-through rates as high as like 8-9%. So depending on how attractive both your subject line and the content of your ad are, these can, same kind of thing as, because they're the same price, the same inventory as message ads. But we've found them on average to be about 30% less expensive to the conversion. So if you assume same conversion rate, call them, call them like 15, 30% lower cost per click. So maybe in the $18 to $20 range.
And have you got any examples of any ads that you've not necessarily done yourself, but you've seen which have just, you're thinking, why on earth is that there?
Yeah, I have. Some people have just tried to shoehorn in like whatever offer they had, and so it'll be like, "Hey, download this white paper." No, hey, how about an ebook instead? And these are things that are much better offered through sponsored content, and can make these things very, very expensive. And coupled with the fact that conversation ads take about 30 minutes for our team to build each one by hand. So, if you're just testing, that's great. But but realize that if you're trying to roll these out at scale, it's expensive, time and resource wise. So test into them, but realize they're going to be hard to build. They're a lot of your time, and they may not be worth trying to shoehorn your existing offer into.
Now, Rebecca asks if there is a sort of minimum cost that should be budgeted for to run decent LinkedIn campaigns. She's thinking from the perspective of smaller companies and agencies.
Yes, that's a great question, Rebecca. What we've found is it takes usually, if you have a good content offer, a good lead magnet, it takes about $5,000 in ad spend to reach statistical significance to your conversion rate and to your cost per conversion, which is really nice to hit, because that tells you with 95% certainty, yes, this is a channel we should continue to pursue, or no, this sucks, we should get out. And so if you have a client who does not have a $5,000 a month budget, what you might suggest is, let's do a $5,000 commitment, or 5,000 pounds, even less than that if you follow the conversion rate. And let's spend that 5,000 over the course of 2-3 months, even if you need to, without major changes, unless something is way underperforming, because you really do want to make sure that you get, oh, there's my reminder to come on this 10 minutes early for sound check. You really do want to make sure that you have enough data to actually see the impact on the business. And, it usually takes about 5,000 to get
right.
There.
That's fantastic. AJ, that's brilliant. I know it's been a run through at speed, but some really, really helpful insights there. So thanks for making it in at the time you did. Everyone else, thank you for taking part and staying behind to make sure AJ got here. So if we could show our thanks by clapping in the chat, that would be great. But once again, AJ, thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Hey, David, thanks so much for moderating. Thank you guys all for sticking with me. Sorry for showing up late. That's not my style.
Take care now.
Okay, see you guys. Thank you guys.